Hi, it's Ryan with DSX Motorsports. Today we're working on the E36 and we're looking to maybe prep it for another track day. Behind me are the parts we're going to use, and the goal of today's modifications is to get more camber without losing any caster. So here are the parts we're going to use. We got some E46 lower control arms that Adam Freeman gave me a while back. We've got some E92 inner and outer tie rod ends and some E36 inner and outer tie rod ends. And then we've got these turner pieces here. These are the lollipops that have the bushing that we need to actually run the lower control arms. You can see they're hexagonal instead of round, so that we can get these control arms onto the E36. And basically the premise is we've got to use the inner tie rod ends of the E92 and the outer tie rod ends of the E36 to get enough steering rack adjustment, because these control arms are about an inch longer. We'll try and get these, we'll work on getting the tie rod ends out first, because that's my least favorite part. And once we get those out, we'll get everything swapped over so you can kind of see where that's all coming from. And I'll show you the difference once we get the control arms off, the difference in the length between the stock E36 control arms and these E46 lower control arms. Let's start by getting this thing up in the air. Okay, so this is the basic process. We got to knock these off here. And I'm noticing that I'm gonna have to run a different sway bar end link. And I'm thinking that means that these are on the wrong end. So I might just I'm already gonna make an adjustment up there. So I might just take those coilovers and flip them over, which is gonna be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but nothing too crazy. Knock this off. And that's the tie rod end. We're gonna work on pulling the inside boot out first. Knock this out here. We'll take off the sway bar temporarily so it's not running around. Could make this really oversteery, so it'll be pretty interesting to see how that goes when we get it back on track. Lower ball joint there comes off, and then that lollipop, those two bolts there come off, and then there's another bolt up in here, which you can kind of see it. Yeah, that's got to pop out. That's going to be probably the hardest one, but well, that's basically the general process here. As you can see, part of the caster, here I am with my caster adjustment on my strut. You can see that in proximity. We're going to actually probably flip this around this way and then try and keep the caster. We're going to get a camber gain, but not get the crazy amount of camber that we're going to get with these crazy extended control arms. The control arms are out. You can see that we have the steering rack. All that stuff is all freed up. That little guy's getting all crazy. So here is kind of the, you can see that we have this thing apart. So this little gal is going to go on with that little gal. See that there? Sorry. And then that's kind of the original, this original one there. So I went ahead and transferred the little boot stopper there for it. But it's definitely considerably longer. You can see, like, even if this thing was threaded all the way in, it would just barely be as short as the existing one. And here's the reason why. So this is the Melee heavy duty control arm that we ran with the E36. With the E30 offset bushing back there. And so now, if we overlay these guys, what you can see is that this ends up being quite a bit longer than the factory control arm. I wish we could get a decent. So you can kind of see that's about the length difference. So that's going to give me that much more camber So they're a little bit lighter. I don't know if it's a big deal. There's also going to be potential for tire clearance issues, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for me. But you know, for the drifty boys, it might be. But so yeah, that's kind of where we're at with this thing. And then we'll get all this stuff back together, and then we'll be cooking with dynamite. So we got it back together. It was kind of a pain in the ass, as you can it's probably hard to tell, but there's a definitely toe out in this wheel, and this one isn't as bad, but there's still going to be toe out. I even cut off some of the inner tie rod to get as much compression as we can, and that's kind of where we're at. I don't know how bad it is, but if I can see it, it's probably not great. But we can put it on. Eventually we'll get it on the alignment and see what it does. Now you can see that those are turned the opposite direction. Well, they're going, not the opposite, but they're going that direction instead of this direction. So that's giving us as much caster as I can get. See that on both sides. We don't have a front sway bar right now. Since the front sway bar is, I have to change the style with the E46 lower control arms, where they mount to the shock. But other than that, as you can see, we were able to not get a crazy amount of camber gained, which is awesome. Which was the goal. The goal was to get about another half a degree or so, but while maintaining getting even more caster. So that was kind of the idea. So we'll do an alignment here on it, and probably shortly, I don't know when, but we'll get that in there, and we'll throw the quick tricks on it, and let's get these parts and stuff, my old parts, to Aaron so he can get this stuff on his car.